Close your eyes for a moment. Can you hear the soft hum of the old refrigerator in the kitchen? The gentle hiss of the coffee pot on the stove? Maybe your mother is humming along to the radio and somewhere in the distance, a lawnmower is buzzing. This was everyday life in the 1960s. Back then things weren't perfect, but they were real. Life had a rhythm, a warmth, a pace that let you breathe. Families gathered around the television at night. Neighbors knew your name. And when someone was sick, you brought them a casserole without being asked. In this video, we're going to take a step back. Not just into history, but into how life really felt. No politics, no documentaries, just the textures, sounds, and moments that made the 1960s feel like home. So sit back, relax, and let's take a walk down memory lane together. Part 1. The family dinner table. The dinner table was the heart of the home. Not just a place to eat. It was where stories were shared, jokes were told, and kids learned their manners. Families didn't rush through meals with phones in their hands, because there were no phones at the table. In most homes, dinner was homemade. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans from a can. Maybe Jell-O for dessert. It wasn't gourmet, but it was made with love. And you could taste that. Dad was usually home by 6. Mom had been cooking for hours, maybe listening to the radio while folding laundry. Kids helped set the table, and they knew better than to complain about the food. This routine may sound simple now, but it created structure, connection, and comfort. That table was a place where you belonged. A place that made the world outside feel a little less chaotic. Part 2. Saturday morning cartoons. There was something magical about Saturday mornings. The house was quiet, just the rustle of the newspaper and the clinking of spoons in cereal bowls. Kids gathered in front of the television, still in their pajamas, eyes wide with excitement. Cartoons weren't just entertainment, they were an event. The Flintstones, Looney Tunes, Rocky and Bullwinkle. These shows didn't need high-tech graphics or fancy effects. They had charm, humor, and characters we still remember today. And parents? They got a rare hour of peace. Maybe sipping coffee, maybe folding laundry, but always nearby, listening with half a smile as kids laughed from the living room. That kind of joy, that simple ritual created bonds. It made childhood feel light and full of color. And when we think back now, we don't just remember the shows. We remember the feeling. Safety, laughter, home. Part 3. Riding in the family car. Before seatbelts were law and GPS told you where to go, there were road trips. You packed sandwiches, filled a thermos with coffee, and piled into the family car. Maybe a Chevy Impala or a Ford station wagon. There was no checking phones. No watching movies in the backseat. Just the scenery rolling by, windows down, radio playing softly. Maybe Elvis or the Supremes on AM. Maybe Dad singing along, slightly off-key. Kids played games, I Spy, counting license plates, or just asking, are we there yet? And even though the drive sometimes felt endless, it was part of the adventure. Gas stations had full service. Someone came out to clean your windshield and check your oil, with a smile. You don't see that much anymore. These drives weren't just about getting somewhere. They were about being together, sharing stories, snacks, and silence. The car wasn't just transportation. It was a moving part of the family story. Part 4. Backyards and neighborhoods. Remember when kids played outside until the streetlights came on? Backyards were kingdoms. The hose became a waterfall. A cardboard box became a spaceship. Neighborhoods felt like extended families. You knew who lived in each house. Not just their names, but what kind of pie they made or when their kids were born. People waved from porches. Kids rode bikes in packs. You didn't need to lock your doors. Summer meant sprinklers and Kool-Aid. Fall meant raking leaves and jumping into the piles. Winter brought snow forts and soggy mittens. Every season had its own rhythm, and every day felt like a small adventure. Parents weren't afraid to let you roam. There was trust in neighbors, in the world, in each other. And that trust made childhood feel bigger, brighter, and freer than it does today. Part 5. A visit to the dime store. Walking into a 5 and dime was like stepping into a treasure chest. Woolworths, Ben Franklin, or Kresge's, rows of little wonders. Candy by the pound. Trinkets, toys, glassware, comic books. You could buy a bottle of Coke, a yo-yo, and a bag of peanuts, all with $1. The air smelled like popcorn and floor polish. The counters had chrome edges. And in the back, maybe a lunch counter with stools that spun. It wasn't just shopping. It was social. You ran into people you knew. You lingered. You browsed without rushing. Store clerks said hello, not because they had to, but because they meant it. Kids learned the value of money there, saving up for a plastic airplane or a slinky. Adults picked up thread or a new measuring cup. It was about simplicity and charm, a place where every small purchase felt special. Part 6, School Days. Before iPads and emails, there were chalkboards and cursive, desks with inkwells, teachers who wore cardigans and called you young man or miss. And discipline, that was part of the deal. You brought your lunch in a metal box with your favorite cartoon on the front. Maybe PB&J, maybe bologna, maybe an apple and a cookie wrapped in wax paper. School felt like a second home. There was structure but also heart. Teachers knew your parents. Report cards were written by hand. And if you got in trouble at school, chances were you'd be in trouble at home too. Recess meant jump rope, dodgeball, or just sitting in the grass trading marbles. There weren't safety warnings on every toy. You learned by doing, sometimes by falling. Education wasn't perfect, but it was personal. And it gave us more than facts. It gave us community, respect, and lifelong lessons. Part 7, Dressing for the Day. There was a time when people dressed with care. Men wore hats even to the store. Women put on lipstick to go grocery shopping. Kids polished their shoes on Sunday nights. Clothes weren't disposable. You had your play clothes, your school clothes, and maybe one special outfit for church or Easter. Mothers often sewed, hemming, patching, making dresses from patterns bought at JCPenney. And somehow, everything looked crisp and clean, even without a fancy washing machine. Dressing up wasn't about vanity. It was about respect for yourself and the world. And when you looked good, you felt good. Even if the dress was homemade or the shoes had a second pair of laces holding them together. There's something timeless in that effort. It told the world, I care. And maybe that's what we miss most. Not the clothes, but the care behind them. Part 8, Radio Days. Before streaming, before the internet, the radio was the heart of the home. Played while you cooked, cleaned, or just sat on the porch with a glass of iced tea. The voices were warm, familiar. DJs spoke like old friends. You knew the times of your favorite shows. The Shadow, Fibber McGee, and Molly Dragnet. Even if the static crept in, you leaned in to listen. Music was rich, full of feeling, doo-wop, Motown, early rock and roll. You could slow dance in the living room or sing along while ironing shirts. The radio brought people together. Around news, around music, around shared silence. And it let your imagination fill in the pictures. There's something to be said for hearing, not watching. For feeling connected by sound alone. The radio wasn't just background noise. It was part of life's soundtrack. Part 9, Holidays and Traditions. Holidays were a big deal. Not for what you got, but how they felt. Thanksgiving smelled like stuffing and cinnamon. Christmas came with real trees, tinsel, and hand-blown ornaments passed down from your grandmother. Kids counted the days with paper chains or chocolate calendars. You didn't buy decorations, you made them. Stringing popcorn, cutting snowflakes, hanging stockings that had a story behind each patch. Family came in from out of town. Folding chairs were brought up from the basement. The good china came out. You held hands before the meal and said grace without rushing. It wasn't about Instagram photos or matching pajamas. It was about being together. The laughter, the small talk, the old stories that got better every year. Even birthdays were more about the people than the presents. And that warmth? It's still there, buried in every box of keepsakes. Part 10, The Front Porch. Before air conditioning and endless screens, the front porch was where life unfolded. You sat in a rocker or on the steps. Maybe with lemonade, maybe just with your thoughts. Neighbors stopped by to chat. You waved at kids riding by. Teenagers courted under porch lights. And adults shared stories, laughter, and weather updates, long before the Weather Channel existed. It wasn't just a porch, it was a stage for life's little moments. Summer breezes, lightning bugs, the smell of fresh-cut grass. Even in silence, the porch had a voice. It reminded us to slow down, to notice things, to connect without distraction. That front porch is more than wood and nails. It's a symbol of openness, of welcome, of presence. And it's something we still carry with us in memory and in spirit. The world has changed. Front porches are empty and families gather more often at different times. But that warm, calm feeling of the past, it lives in each of us. We feel it in the smell of freshly baked bread, in the rustling of autumn leaves, in the melody of a song that instantly takes us back 50 years. These were not just moments, they were the foundation of our lives, what made us who we are. Golden Days Rewind is not an attempt to escape from the present. It is a way to honor the past and remember that the most precious things in life are not gone. They are always with us, you just have to want to remember them. Wherever you are, whatever your day, take a deep breath, close your eyes and let those golden days play in your heart again.